All right, we are here with the Her Hoop Stats podcast, Dice It Up special, mixed with courtside, Dano, Gabe. It's always good to see you. And Gabe, I'd love for you to introduce our amazing guest.
Oh.
You have ties back to the DC days.
The DC days. We're here with Gebbia, head coach of the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, former head coach of the American Eagles. I got to cover your Pat League run last year. I thought it was just so great, you know, how you connected with those players and how emotional those moments were watching you guys in the semifinals and finals, and just like how the team really responded to each other. I thought that was the best part of American last year. So when you were coming to Wake, and I'm a big ACC guy. Everyone who listens to this podcast knows I love the ACC. I got so excited. So when you're thinking about the move, you know, you go from American, one of the better teams in the Pat League because you built the program there, to Wake Forest, a team obviously who has great history, but is kind of more of it's a bigger fish, smaller pond in terms of town, smaller pond, bigger fish in terms of the conference.
Yeah.
So how do you approach just like the rebuild at Wake versus how you approached it starting at American?
I don't know if it was that much different in the sense of like recruiting is the key. It's your lifeline to your program. But I think just building the foundation, right? Setting in your defense, right? Showing them this is how we do things. The offense piece took some time.
Yeah.
It's still taking time. But just making sure that they understand the fundamental blocks of just the when you look at our defense, for example, like we talked a little bit about the 3-point percentage, like focusing on little areas that can just get a little bit better. I watched a lot of film of them coming into the job and recognized, you know, some deficiencies where we could just immediately make an impact at that end of the floor. And there's certain things, certain fundamentals of our defense that we don't change, right? And I think it's easier for them when you have all these rules, right? It's a little easier, a little bit more black and white, and then add to those things as you scout people. So for us, it was that. It was also the relationship piece. Like we knew that they needed to trust us, and in order for them to trust us, they had to get to know us. So we spent a lot of time with them in the summer, just hanging out, understanding what drives them, what makes them, you know, an ACC basketball player. Why'd you choose Wake? All those types of things, because it's important to move forward knowing those details, right?
Yeah, and having I feel like your team really did have those relationships that came out. Also, I want to ask before I forget, because I know as soon as we talk about hoops, I'm going to forget. Emily, your assistant coach, was telling me that in this move, going from DC, probably a small apartment, going to Wake, Winston-Salem, you're purchasing powers much better in Winston-Salem. So in the middle of this move, you're coming in late, got recruiting, got transfer portal. You get a dog, you get a puppy.
Yes, I decided that my other dog needed a friend.
Sure.
Right, so I purchased this dog online. And then the whole Wake thing happened, and I'm like, I can't go back on my word. I have to take the dog, right? And she's been a handful.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, she's been a huge handful. But I've enjoyed, honestly. It's nice because I'm not home that much, right? So for them to be able to be friends and hang out in the house and all that was great. But I tell you, I was stressed. Like I don't think I realized how stress can like ruin your body.
Yeah.
I've had eczema. I've had
really?
things that I've never had before, and I just think it's a culmination of moving. Higher level, a lot of pressure, recruiting, like you hit the ground running, and I wasn't sure how much Wake was going to have me do early on, but I was doing stuff every day, like just out in the public or whatever, speaking to people, and it was a lot. But I understand that they want to win, and so do I. And I think this program has really struggled to be consistent with the winning aspect of it. So it's going to take an overhaul. It's going to take all of our time and effort and energy.
With the anxiety and excitement around moving like that, there is probably no better move personally than to get another dog. Like
right.
A puppy's up.
Yeah, she was 8 weeks.
The endorphins. I mean, my wife is a stickler with training our dog. A lot of people know about Ollie. He's beautiful.
Oh, I love it.
But like the endorphins you get from seeing a puppy, and we saw one at dinner last night, and luckily Gabe got to look at it the entire time. I sat and looked at this beautiful guy. But no, I love that move. We got to bring Ziggy and Ollie down to down to Wake.
You do. We can introduce all the dogs. We'll have a
God.
dog day.
Dog day?
Yes.
Let's do it.
I have a house now and a backyard, so. How
Yeah.
cute.
He's 100.
He's
100-pound Bernedoodle unit.
My medium-sized one's about 45 pounds, and she's a pit mix, and then the other one's a mini golden doodle.
Oh.
Really mouthy. Really mouthy, but the boss of everything.
Love
But
that.
love her to death, and she's such a sweetheart. So I love dogs.
And what are their names?
Callie and Reese.
Callie and Reese.
Yeah.
No, that's just like so as a person who none of their friends have kids, 2 of my friends just got puppies. I just can imagine like the stress of doing coaching a major college program plus the puppy, because those people are stressed. But to get back to the hoop side of it, why do you think when you took the American job, did you have a similar stress, or did you just not know?
Yes, because it was my first head coaching job, right? So moving over that next chair was stressful, right? Because I didn't know what I was going to do. Was I going to stand during the games? Was I going to sit? I didn't know what to do with myself, kind of, that first year. But the basketball was still the basketball, right? It was still the same level of basketball. I think the difference here is knowing that you've got a certain amount of time on your contract, right? Yeah. And you want to make sure that you continue the improvement each and every year, because I want to be there. I want to stay. I want to build it, right? I want to make Wake, one of the better teams in the ACC, and it's hard to stay at the top. I mean, look at this year. It's just the ACC was all over the place, with everybody beating everybody, and it was fun. And I don't think I expected that. I expected like the haves and the have-nots kind of going into the league, and it really wasn't that way for the most part.
And I'm not just saying this because you're sitting here. Dano can tell you, I say this all the time. I think the ACC, and this is no shade to any other conference, I think top to bottom has the best coaching in the country. Yeah. How does that affect what you're saying in terms of it can be any night? Like, do you think that's because of the coaching, the game planning, the scouting that goes into every single team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, and I think it's just across the country. Right. Recruits know the ACC, right? So you know that you want to go there. Right. Between ACC, Big Ten, SEC, right? Those are the 3 conferences you think about. So I think the coaching is outstanding, and I feel like going into it, what I recognize is, in the mid-major level, you could still potentially not play that well and win. You cannot do that. Like, you really can't. Yeah. So it's being at your best as much as possible, and I think for us this year, as well as we did, we were inconsistent. We lost a couple games we shouldn't have lost, right? And it's like going back and reviewing those films and trying to figure out for next year, how do we make that change? And it really, I think, starts in practice with the consistent effort and attitude and just, going after it. It's as you get into the season, you have male practice players, right? Yeah. So you start to use them more, and you're still playing everyone. I'm big on everyone playing, because I want the people that don't play as much to get better. But at the same token, you also have to rest them a little bit. So I feel like at times it's good and at times it's not good. Just because they don't know what ACC women's basketball is as far as the physicality. I think the physicality was the one thing that I was like, okay, got it. Check that box.
That, to the point of you're still learning your team every day.
Every day.
I think Coach Yo told me that as well. It's like, I don't know what my team is going to be like in 2 weeks.
That's right.
And that's so beautiful to me and profound, because it's like, you can adjust a whole team's identity throughout the season, still playing within the system, but working to what works well and avoiding what doesn't. And I mean, it's a perfect example of some of the games that you won that I like. It's like, I don't think, this team looking good here. I mean, Louisville's the same kind of way. Louisville looked really bad at the start of this year. No offensive flow, and then I think Jeff is a big reason why they did so successfully.
I agree. After our game, after he lost us, he changed his lineup. I was like, good for him. He totally changed it, and it worked in his favor. So, I think he's a magician, honestly. He's a really good job of coaching and understanding his players and being real with them. I think that's the other side of it.
Yeah, which is hard to do.
It is.
In any job.
It is.
Coaching, God.
Mm-hmm. I've called him a magician, too. So I'm glad you used the term. I have someone backing me up. And for you, moving up to this level, and you have all this talent, and do you feel like you had to change in terms of not necessarily what you did on the court, how you talk to the players, how you set stuff up, you mentioned rules, right? You mentioned rules in your defense. Did you feel like you guys stick to rules, or is it something that you just stick to the messaging of certain things?
I think it was more of, that's a tough one, because I think it's a little of both. Okay. I think it's a little of the messaging. I think I knew that they were learning this year, so I don't think I was as tough on them as I could have been, right? And I've told them that. I said, wait till next year, so that piece. But I mean, I've been preaching defense the whole time. I said, we're not gonna move forward until we buy into that end of the floor. And I think it was the first time that they realized they could do it. They really could be good at it. We have enough good defenders on our team, and I still don't think we're there yet.
Right.
You know, you see us play at the end of the year, and I'm like, God, we're making so many little mistakes that we shouldn't be making. But we had quite a few kids out there that didn't have a lot of experience. You know, Liv Sumiel, you know, she had a lot of experience. Jewel, and then Elise, I guess, had 1 year, but like Demir's playing, Kai didn't have a lot of experience, so it's like them learning and catching up to where everyone else is. But I think it's a little.
Right.
Yeah, the messaging, and I told them, I said, next year it's going to be way more demanding. It's not good enough. Right. You know, 500 is not good enough. That's not where we want to be. You all want to be in the NCAA tournament. You've said that to me. I want to get there too. That requires a top half finish, right? We got to jump up like 5 or 6 more spots. So in order to do that, like we're going to focus a lot in the summer on conditioning, on strength training, getting stronger for the physicality of the game, understanding how not to foul, but be physical at the same time. Yeah. It's not our strength this year. So we got in foul trouble a lot, and that hurt us.
Well, I mean, we were talking about
fouls. A lot of fouls at Wake Forest.
Hey. Yeah. I'd rather you foul a lot. Well, so for me, I'd rather you foul a lot than a little, right? Like fouling a lot means you're there.
You're aggressive.
Sure. But the thing is we didn't have a backup point guard. We didn't have a backup 5. So us fouling really didn't help us. Okay. It hurt us to have to sub. And when I sub, things usually were on like unsteady ground because I didn't know what my bench was going to give me.
Yeah, and so you play a lot of players that get tired, so you tend to foul more. But it's hard not to, go with who you trust at a certain point, especially when the season is like, middle, you're knee deep.
I love the word trust because I think it's hard to gain my trust. But then when you have it, sometimes people that don't have it are frustrated by it, right? Because they're like, why can't I break into that? You know, why she get the go, the nod over and over again, and I don't? And it is a trust thing. And I trusted those starters, and it was tough. It was tough for me to sub.
And speaking of conditioning, I just really want to talk about motion offense.
Okay.
So everyone on this podcast knows I just started coaching high school, and we run the motion offense.
Terrific.
Yes.
I love hearing that.
We run 4 out, 1 in. Okay. I didn't really know. I watch a lot more NBA than college, getting into basketball. I didn't really know what the motion offense is all about. And I found the hardest part was convincing players to cut correctly, which I still do not know. And we eventually they got the message, but I don't know if we did that. And then B, getting them to run the actual offense when they're tired. And I saw that with you guys a couple times where it was like fourth quarter, especially against Florida State. And Jewel has been playing the entire game, but she's still the one moving everyone, and the rest of the players are just so tired. So how do you get over those 2 humps of convincing them to cut and getting them to cut throughout the game, even when they're tired?
I love that. I love that you noticed that and that you've experienced that, because Jewel in particular has said to me, wow, I didn't realize how much I have to move in this offense. I wasn't ready for this. So not in the sense that she didn't like it. It was just like, I need to be in better shape. Right? And her favorite player is Steph Curry. Well, look how much he moves. I said, if that's your best player, you really need to get into elite shape coming into next year. And I think the hardest part is to get them to cut to trust each other, to not like look around as you're screening, because you don't focus on what you're doing. We talked a lot about that. Like, focus on, if you said get and you're screening, you set the screen. I don't care where the ball is. You don't need to see the ball. And that was hard to get them to do. A lot of them said that was probably the hardest piece. There's certain kids on our team. Alyssa Andrews runs motion extremely well because she doesn't care that she has the ball in her hands all the time. Where a Jewel or an Elise like to have the ball in their hands a little bit more. So we started to do more ball screens as the season went on for them. And you can do ball screens out of motion. It's just you don't want to do, that's not the only thing you want to do.
We had to ban the ball screen.
I always start doing that. I'm not allowing them to ball screen because that's what they'll just default to is the ball screen piece and handoffs. And I'm like, that's not getting anyone open.
It's cool if you do that as part of it, but it was like every single play was a ball screen.
It's trust. It comes back to the trust word because like Louisville in the tournament, 3rd game in a row, we're exhausted going in, right? And they're pressuring the heck out of us, right? And we don't want to move. Right. And we don't want to cut because we don't trust our teammates going to get us the ball. And there's just so much that goes into that offense that I always say it takes a good year to learn and figure out what each other's doing. Because eventually, she's going to fly cut there, or she's going to straight cut there, or she's going to slip the screen, so I'm going to be ready to pass. It was just a bunch of, I don't know, for somebody like me, it allows for you not to control the game. You're not controlling it. You're letting them control it to a degree.
And that's what they want.
Right, and that's what they want. However, when the shot clock winds down, then they're like, where's Jewel?
Yeah.
And then they just shove the ball at her. Like, that's not the point. You
Yeah.
want to keep cutting and screening. So that's something we have to get over.
Well, and I mean, you build that natural chemistry too with each other. I mean, because it's not just you trusting, but them trusting each other
That's
and
right.
understanding, like, okay, I can improv at this point. Like, and reading the defense at the same time when you're just running a motion offense to start out is probably impossible.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
it is
You're-
hard.
You're just focusing on yourself and your teammates.
Yep.
But when you hit that next step of like understanding where I can take advantage of this,
Yeah, I can't wait for
Beautiful.
that. Like, it is going to be a beautiful way of playing the game, I
Right.
think. But if we're not there to the point where there's a couple, Elise runs the offense really
Yeah.
well too. She's a really good passer, so she finds cutters to
you'll
the
see
rim.
flashes of it, right?
You
Like,
do. You're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
You
But
did it.
it's- yeah, I
You
know.
face cut.
Yes.
You actually face cut.
But it's just, it takes time. So I look forward to next year because now they're not all freshmen to a
Yeah.
degree, right? And we have 3 freshmen coming in. We have 2 kids that sat out for season-ending injuries this year, and then maybe a transfer or 2. So we're still going to have some newbies, so to speak. It'll be
So,
interesting.
so why do you? So like Dano played D3, he ran the Princeton, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the Princeton. Okay.
Yeah.
So why do you? Yeah, right. I mean, I think the Princeton would be really cool to play in as a player. Just like you do this, you do that, and then something happens.
Yeah.
Do this, do that. So why do you like the motion? Like I know our coach gave us like a list of things of what this is why we run motion offense. I just want to hear from you. Like why did you first start running the motion offense?
Well, because I think it's easier to make adjustments based on how the defense is playing you. I think also it's hard to scout because I honestly don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They just have to read it. We can go into the game and say, I think they're going to switch guard to guard, post to post,
Right.
or they're going to switch 1 through 5, or they're not going to switch at all.
Right.
And then based on how they're guarding it, you make adjustments throughout the game, which is a little bit easier. Sets are scoutable. I think we realized that as the season went on. Like, to me, this year, though, the big thing was ball screen and rescreen. It seems to be the action that everyone's going
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
which I think is really effective for somebody like Jewel,
Yeah.
who you have to be there. If the post isn't there, she's going to shoot it.
Yeah.
So, so that was actually advantageous for us to have that. But like when you have a bunch of kids that are maybe not Jewel's level,
Yeah.
you need to find different ways to score. And this is one way to put them in position to score, even if you're not the first team all ACC.
And so so with those rescreens, like everyone's running it in like millions of different. I forgot who was running like a double drag, and then they rescreened the double drag.
I did that.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that.
Maybe it was you. I have a
Yeah.
clip of that somewhere.
Yeah.
Do you like the rescreen more, or do you like a get more? I know a lot of teams are also going to the dribble it out.
Off ball screens, you mean, or just in general?
A get for a handoff, like
So-
instead of the rescreen.
So our term "get" basically means I'm screening for you, not a
Oh,
ball
okay,
screen.
okay.
We have
Yeah.
a different term for a ball screen.
Okay.
But what we did, we do a double drag in transition, and we changed it. Sometimes the 4 would roll out, sometimes the 5 would rescreen, sometimes the 4 would go screen,
Yeah.
the 5,
Yeah.
and then we do a roll and rise. So we would switch it game to game based on what we saw in film from prior games and how they guarded things.
Yeah.
So I do see the value in that. I think at times, like, so when I went into this year, I watched them run transition. I'm like, it is all over the place. So we need to kind of restructure it where the point guard gets the outlet and the 2 runs the right side. And I hate doing that. And the 2
Yeah.
just to get them organized.
Yeah.
So we did that. Now I'm recognizing it might be better if Jewel has the ball in her hands, or at least just because we get more out of that. So next year going into the season, I'm thinking maybe it's just whatever guard gets it, let's go,
Yeah.
and do it that way and add some things to it. But yeah, so for me, I mean, the rescreen was huge. Virginia Tech is the game that I think about because
Yeah.
Kidley did not want to come out and defend on the ball screen. So I'm like, well, let's keep doing it.
And you don't want to go to her.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I'm okay going to her. You stay there. I'll shoot.
Exactly.
Good.
I was gonna say in some of these systems that coaches run, like I mean, I think about like Texas, for example, doing dribble drive.
Okay.
When you face a zone defense,
Yeah.
like some of the principles obviously with motion should be helpful to the team, but I feel like too many times, especially in the tournament, you're seeing like a zone defense for the first time and teams have no idea what to do offensively. And it drives me
Insane.
off the wall watching this happen because I'm like, it becomes bad basketball. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you like defense,
It's not even like necessarily good defense. It's like they're
Yeah.
just not.
You're just like
Yeah.
it's like AAU. You watch AAU and you're
Yeah.
like team goes
Yeah.
zone and it just goes to hell.
Yeah.
It does. It
So,
absolutely.
I mean, you want to shoot, right? But so I guess my question behind this is, how much do you work on that if teams especially know that, oh, they're going to run the motion, let's just stop and and get in a 2-3 and make them move around and make Jewel shoot and beat
Well,
them.
it's really easy to transition from motion if
Yeah.
you don't know it's zone into a zone offense. So our zone offense is very similar to motion in the sense of it's not a scripted offense. And I've had
Okay.
coaches in the past say to me, so when the ball goes here, is there a certain no, there's not. It honestly I talked to Harry Beretta a lot about his zone offense because I love what Villanova's done in the past. And he talked me through kind of how they do it, and we've tweaked it a little based on our personnel. But there is certain positions in the zone.
Yeah.
So you have to know certain positions. But if you are a perimeter player, for example, you can cut through but you got to pass and cut. You cannot stand in the same spot.
Yes.
You cannot stand in the same spot. So there's that piece of it.
So do you go with like the shallow cuts?
You can shallow cut. You can flare off of flasher who flashes inside. You could go to the corner, like if it's a 3-2, the corners are your weak spot. So you got to find the areas that it's hard for them to rotate to.
Also, just like moving the ball.
Yes.
Speed. I mean, the amount of times I would throw it back to the guy at the top and just want him to ball screen the other way and come back to me. It's like just move the defense a little bit. I had to rant. I'm sorry.
No,
I
love
understand
Texas still.
that.
I'm sorry, Longhorn fans. Didn't mean to single them out.
Well, I thought, you mentioned dribble drive, and I thought of Florida State because that's what they do, and they're so effective. Like, that's one of the hardest teams, I think, to guard because they put the ball relentlessly on the floor. Yeah.
Shoots. Everyone was shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Timpson wasn't shooting, but
Timpson
Aaron
does a
Howard.
lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, how many of these kids are graduating? I hope some of them are graduating.
Yeah, Latson's gonna be a problem for a while.
She is.
Yeah.
She absolutely is.
Yeah,
She's special.
Shame we didn't get to see her in the. I would love to see her versus Jewel.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the tournament when it really matters.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And a game close. I mean, I'd be freaking out, loving it. I'm sure it's probably stressful for someone coaching.
It
but
is. Well, it is. And when we found out she wasn't playing in the tournament, I was like, oh no. It's like good, but bad. Because then you're like, now I feel like we should win, right? But we weren't. I mean, the first half was terrible. So it's hard when you game plan for somebody and then they're not there.
Yeah.
And then you have no time to kind of get ready.
Oh, and they were not going to tell you. I walked out. I saw her. I walked out and someone was walking with me and they were like, "Is that Latson? Like, she doesn't have her game clothes on." And it was like 5 minutes before game. I was like, "Okay, I guess she's
What's
not
going on?"
playing."
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's when you found out too. And that is actually interesting because I think we've had a lot of conversations about withholding information in terms of the injuries. And Dano likes to bet. He runs our betting aspect.
Yeah.
And he also loves hoop.
Yeah.
But for me, I was telling them, I would never tell anyone any of our injuries until the absolute last second because you had to game plan for lots. So then what happens? Do you just kind of say, okay, we're going out the game plan and we're trying to do something?
So, I don't know if you remember, but our point guard went down against UVA, and she did a great job on Latson when we played him at home. Because it ended up being a 1-point game. I think we lost by 1.
Yeah.
And she did a terrific job guarding her, and she goes down. I'm thinking, oh, man, this is going to be rough. Because we just don't have anyone else that can guard. At least can, but at least has to do so much on offense, too, that it's, really hard. But so when I heard that, I was like, all right, well, maybe that's good. Kai's out. We don't have to worry about that. But then, they shared the ball a little bit more, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And now they're making perimeter shots, and I'm like, So, you don't know. But she also makes plays, and they look for her, and when things got tight and we started to make that run, she wasn't there.
Right.
And I think that was the difference right there.
And Jewel was.
And Jewel was.
Yeah, so I thought
that's the difference.
I think Jewel, she's just a special person.
She's a great person, just human being, honestly, terrific human being.
So I asked her at the after you guys lost in the tournament. So I wanted to know because as the ACC guy, I get talked to all the time is Jewel going to transfer, whatever. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think she wants to do something different. And that's why I asked her why is it important for you to be at Wake? And she had just a really beautiful answer about how this school trusted her and she wants to give it back. Could you just talk a little bit more about her attitude in that regard and just her attitude overall?
I think Jewel treats herself like a professional athlete, right? She takes care of her body. We talked to her a little bit about nutrition. Sometimes she thinks something's nutritious and it's not, right? So I think that's her next step is she tries, but she could do a better job, especially when they go back to school in the fall. Because in the summer, you have more time. You can control what you're putting in your body. It's like when you're in class and you're rushing around, and it's a little bit harder. So we talked to her about like meeting with a nutritionist and that type of thing. But she treats herself like that. So, and she puts the time in. Like, you can sit there and say she takes a lot of shots. Sure, she does. But like, she's earned those shots.
Yeah.
She's put the time in to take them.
Yeah.
And there's not a kid on the team that thinks differently, right? They understand where she's coming from. And I think for Jewel, like, she loves Wake Forest. She went to Wake Forest because A, the degree.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about academics. Her and her family are big believers in that. And
Awesome.
B, like, she wanted to make a name for herself. And she knows if she's going to Louisville or she's going to an NC State or wherever, you know, she's going to be one of many.
Yeah.
And I think we need more players to do that, just to bring parity to women's basketball. The more players that do that, you're going to see it more like the men's tournament.
Yeah.
We've had some upsets and it's looked great.
It's coming.
It is coming. I believe
coming.
that. So it's just a matter of like having more Jules out there that want to build places, right? And she's stuck with us. She's stuck with a new coaching staff.
Right.
I think that if she was going to leave, it would have been in the coaching change,
Yeah.
you know. So, but in the age of NIL, you just never, you never know, right?
Anything's good.
And
Anything
she
happens.
takes advantage of it. I mean, she goes and does her things with NIL and you know, does her tax forms and all that kind of stuff that she's got to do. And she's very responsible with that. And, you know, I think she's helping grow Wake's name, you know, just in general.
Absolutely.
I mean, about like her ceiling, like what do you think is that next step outside of like obviously, you know, taking care of her body, but like what else do you think she adds to her game that really puts her at like the elite of the country?
I like that you asked that question. We just had our end of the year meeting not too long ago this week, and we said, so one of my questions in my questionnaire was like, where do you see yourself, like right now?
Yeah.
All-American, All-ACC, starter on a winning team, in the rotation, scout. And she circled All-American, and I circled All-ACC. So we talked about it, because I think you have to sit there and say to yourself, like, why do you think that? This is why I think that. Where do you need to go with your progression? And I said, you are All-ACC. That's why I circled it. And if you were an All-American, we'd probably win more games. I said that to her, and it is true.
Yeah.
And she said, okay. And I said, but do I think you can get there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're right now a 2-level scorer at the rim and 3. You need the pull-up. You need the mid-range to be consistent.
Yeah.
And different ways of scoring the mid-range. The floater, right? The runner, the pull-up, left, right. You know, you need to go left more. Like we talked about all the things that she could get better at. The elite shape, doing every rep gain speed. Like those types of things. Getting stronger. Honestly, I think she's not as strong as she should be. So she met with our strength guy, who I think is excellent. And he's talked with her about her goals and the things that she needs to do to get there. And I think if we have her for 2 more years, you know, because she's got the COVID year, I think we can get her there. So it's just a matter of her doing it.
Did she like to? Well, I don't know if she likes. Do you see her more, her future, with you guys, and then at the next level as an on-ball, as a point guard, essentially, more of an on-ball?
So it's funny. I talked about it with my staff, you know, because I'm like, are we better with Jewel running point,
Right.
or are we better as the 2? And I think it's a combination. Like we're gonna have to run some sets with her running that spot as the point, but it's exhausting, and so. You don't want to, like against pressure in particular, like she's wearing herself out, breaking pressure, and now she can't score.
Right.
So that is always in the back of my mind that like, and we're actively looking to sign a point guard too, so that's something that, you know, we have to help her out, and her teammates need to get her open at times within motion, I think.
So when you're talking to her about the stuff you want her to work on, like the mid-range stuff, is she that type of person that is searching for the constructive criticism on things to ask?
Yes.
Yeah,
She absolutely
amazing.
is. She's like, I want you to tell me the truth. I want you to be honest with me. And of course, I mean, if you want to be a pro, I don't know, like when you get to that level, I've never been at that level. I don't know if they're like patting you on the back, you're going to be fine. Probably not, right? Like you either do it or you don't. So I was talking to Mike Tebow this year. Obviously, I've known him through the Mystics and all that. And I said, I need your honest opinion on Jewel. Can she play at the next level? And he's like, she's got all the pro stuff, all the ball handling, all that stuff. He said, but if she doesn't go game speed and she doesn't shoot 40% from 3, no. I told her that. I said, this is your goal. You've got to shoot that well from 3, night in and night out. You know, your field goal percentage was 38% overall. That's not good enough. All-Americans don't shoot 38% from the field. They're in the mid-40s. So we have some work to do.
Yeah.
I imagine she's already in the gym.
Oh, I'm sure.
shooting.
I'm sure she is. I'm sure
I
she
mean,
is.
too many players, and maybe it's more so probably like the younger generations too, that just like are complacent and happy. But like the stars who are not, it's a recipe for something really special.
Different level
I'm
of
so
thinking.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have that.
Yeah, me neither.
I had a good time.
No,
I was happy to
Dano
be
won
there.
Defensive Player of the Year in his
I was
conference.
happy to be
Oh,
there.
did you?
Yeah, but now in rec league I play 0. I just get shots up.
He played all his defense for his life.
That's okay. That was your role, right?
Yeah,
Everybody's got their role.
Backward passes. 3 shots a game.
I love it. I love it. But I love defense. So I love watching people play defense, and that's like their element. Like it's fun to watch that. Like even the what's the kid on Florida State? The little point guard. I can't think of her name.
Oh, Sarah Jetty?
Yes, her.
Yes.
Like watching her play defense is kind of special. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't stand her, right?
Yeah.
Because she was good at it.
Yeah.
But you're like, all right, you gotta give
dog.
props to the kid.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I mean, and the problem with when you know good defense, especially somebody who watches and maybe wagers on games, the charge call and the illegal screen call are the worst 2 calls in the game. I'm over it. I just want to get that out again. I probably got to complain like once every 10 podcasts, but we're getting close to the end of the season. Got to get it out there.
So don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get yourself fired.
Okay, please.
Refs. How do you approach it? So like this year, I run hot. I'm not a very high strung person.
Okay.
So I almost
I'm calm for the most part.
No, I know. I've seen you on the bench. I'm like, I would really love to be like her. I'm never going to be like that.
That's okay.
But so like the first I don't know 10 games of the season, I was almost getting kicked out like all the time.
Yep.
And so I felt like I had to just say, okay, I have to understand that we're playing against the refs as well. We just have to assume that we are playing against the refs, because if we don't, it's going to make us mad. It's going to get us unfocused. How do you approach that, especially when we see in these giant moments these calls that look, wrong? We'll say wrong.
Yeah.
Like how do you control that emotion yourself and make sure that control in yourself trickles down to the team?
So it really didn't come out in me that the part of you that comes out a lot until like Louisville. Like they were starting to make some questionable calls, and I'm like, we could win this game. Like you cannot do this to me right now. That type of thing. But honestly, we have my assistants officiate in practice, right? And I tell them make some bad calls and let's see what happens. And boy, did our kids get frustrated. Like I saw it in practice, and I said we cannot be this way, because apparently they don't like us anyway. So that's not going to help us. So we actually, for the first probably 15 games, we were constantly talking to them about, you need to talk nice to the officials. You need to ask them why without getting frustrated. Don't throw your hands up. And we still did it. But don't throw your hands up. Don't say anything, right? Because I think there's a reason why they made the call, right? And if you get frustrated with them, why? They're human. Why would they want to help you after you do that, right? So it's one of those things. We're not where we should be yet, but I think we're getting better at that, I think. And yeah, it's fun. It was fun to watch them just get crazy in practice, and I'm like, wow, we really struggle with this aspect. So, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does, because I did that same thing.
Yeah.
We were running scrimmage, and I'd be like, that's a foul. And be like, no, you're kidding me. I was like, no, that's
and
not.
my staff does a really good job of remembering the officials. I usually don't remember them that well unless there's been an incident. They'll sit there and say to me, she can't handle yelling. You can talk to this person, this and that. So they'll tell me before the game, like,
scouting.
Yeah, it is, basically. Because, they're all human, so they're going to react different ways.
Actually, you know what? So scouting is actually something, I know American, obviously, in the Patriot League, it's more of a shoestring budget. You only have, I was talking to your assistant Emily in the off season, and she was telling me all the stuff she did about, she was an assistant coach. She had to handle the analytics. She had to handle the video. She didn't have any of the resources. She had to use a spreadsheet to do it. I'm sitting there thinking, like, this woman must be Superman. And so now when you go to Wake Forest and you have so many more resources, do you feel like you're kind of like a kid in Kansas? Like, yeah, we can do whatever we want. So there's straight coach.
At first, I was like, there's too many people. Why do we need that many people, right? And now you're like, we need all those people, right? No, it's awesome for Emily in particular, because we can hire Joey, who you met, right? That really runs the analytics for her. They collaborate on it, but they're doing it together. But then he hired a student,
I
right?
heard.
Which is great. She was awesome. So, and I know baseball at Wake has a huge analytics. I don't know, they have 10 guys that are in their program. So we want to move towards more of that and not weigh everything so heavily on analytics. I think because at least at times we look at me and she goes, "Was that a bad shot?" I'm like, if it's in rhythm and it's open, take the shot. Just because pull-ups are not a great shot analytically does not mean that we take none, right? So it's like it got in their head a little bit. So I hope as we move through this that they understand that, like, if it's open, you're on balance and take it, right? So
how do you get them to understand, like, I'm telling you this is a bad shot because of the
there's
that
a
was
lot
so
going,
difficult.
Yes,
the context matters so much about that bad shot.
It does.
You can tell he's got some frustrations coming back from coaching already.
I just want to get back, like, you know, and I'm sure you feel this too. It's like when you're out of practice, you think of all the stuff you could have done.
Oh, for sure.
But just like I don't like, how do you give them that context? Is it through the stats? Is it through the videos? Is saying, you know, hey, look, like this is why this was a bad shot.
For film. I mean, individual film with our position coaches and with us as a group. And then in practice, I'll point out if it's a bad shot, I'll tell them it was bad, and I'll tell them why, right? And so, and there's certain players like a Jewel, right? The elite players take whatever's open.
Right.
You don't hamper them at all because you want them to take whatever. Because Jewel's not going to get threes as much as maybe Elise gets it. So.
Those are game winners.
Yeah, they are. A lot of times pull-ups are the game winner, right? So she's got to be ready for that. And she'd rather take a pull-up 3 than a pull-up, right? So it's like getting her to understand that piece. But yeah, I mean, and everyone is really, I mean, they're busy.
Yeah.
All 10 people are really busy, and it's helped me a ton because I don't think I realized. Like before at AU, we'd come in the office, right? We'd talk about practice, what we're gonna do, and then we would go and do our thing, and then we have practice, and that's it. You know. Now, when we first got hired, I barely spoke to Emily and Nikki. Like we just had a ton going on that, like, we're on the phone all the time. I'm going here, I'm going there, and I just don't see them. It was weird. It was really strange. Not until we started games did we start to sit down and really talk about stuff. That's how busy we were. It was probably the hardest year of my life, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
But did you enjoy it?
Yes, yeah. Just difficult, just tiring, just demanding.
So much new.
But it's making me better, right?
Yeah.
It's making me a better coach. It's making me a better person at this level, right? And I'm learning, and I'm a learner. I'm a person that doesn't like to be satisfied, that we always have to evolve. And that's why we brought the analytics pieces. Emily is the one that came up to me and said, what do you think of this? And I said, yes, go take the class. Let's add it. So the portal, right? You got to evolve with the portal. NIL, you got to evolve with that. So there's so many new things that I wasn't prepared for at this level that I'm going through it now. And I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have gotten this at 8 years.
The growth mindset, like having a fixed mindset is not possible, I think, to succeed in basketball. But
like, you can't say this is how we have always done it. Even motion, to a degree, we've had to tweak because it may not work against a certain team a certain way. So you have to keep tweaking stuff.
Well, and the motion continues to evolve, just like generally, like the handoffs and the.
Because ours is different based on who's in, right? Because Damir's in. She ain't shooting from the perimeter, right? So it's almost like a 4-out, 1-in with her in. And then with everyone, when she comes out, then we can 5 out and we can do a little bit more. So.
And speaking of the learning, like so American obviously is a great school.
Yeah.
You go to Wake Forest, another great school. You have high academic, and you mentioned this. You mentioned the high academic nature of your players. Like, what does that do for you as a coach? Like now, like probably teach them a little bit more.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, right. Like it seems like it's easier to teach them.
To a degree, but they ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And it's for them, a lot of times they're so smart, it's black and white. And motion is all gray.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest part for them. But I do enjoy, I enjoy not having to worry about what grades they're getting in the classroom, right? Because there's certain programs that you have to make sure they're going to class. I don't have to do that. Right? They care. That's why they went there. And I came in firing. Like my first day, if you guys don't get it done in the classroom, you don't belong here. End of story. So that was number one, and they understood that, and they've done a really good job. But there's the gray part of basketball, and mostly basketball is gray. Right? I think defense could be a little bit more black and white, but for the most part, so it's learning and being okay with, was this okay?
Yeah.
Was this okay? And it's like, it's fine.
And it's like how you live life too. Like any job, there's no black and white in life.
There just isn't. So, and I think that's a good learning lesson for a lot of them.
So how'd you develop, like, I think to a certain, like a large extent, coaches are teachers. Right?
Yeah.
This is John Wooden thing, right? How'd you develop your teaching method? Because so my head coach was a history teacher for 30 years. That's how you develop the teaching method.
That's good though.
And then I've heard Carl Smesko at FGCU talk about how he uses what I call the Socratic method from law school, where he's asking questions.
Okay.
So he asked the questions and they answered.
Okay.
How'd you develop your kind of teaching method?
So that's interesting. So Coach Georges, who I work for
Yeah.
at Maris, it's his offense. The
Yeah.
motion is something he developed in how we run this particular motion. And he was a teacher his entire life. So he was, I think, science teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, or health or something like that. Anyway, watching him kind of go through his way of planning stuff, like it's detailed. And I'm a very detailed person. So we're going to start with the overarching picture of our defense or our offense. We're gonna run it 5-on-0, and then we're gonna break it down step by step. So that's kind of how I learned to teach it. And before I worked for him, I worked for a couple other really good coaches, but they didn't teach that way.
Okay.
They were all about, we have to do this drill perfect before we move on. And he was very much, that's not the game of basketball. It's like, why do we do 4-on-4 shell when there's 5 people out there? That's what he said. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So we only do 5-on-5 shell now. We don't do 4-on-4. Right, so it's that part of that. Like he's a master at the game, and I spent 10 years with him.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot, and I paid attention
Yeah.
to how he taught. Now he's a lot more vocal than I am. He's a lot scarier than I am. But you have to be you. At the end of the day, like you take everything you learn, and you're like, I'm still going to be me. Right, I'm still going to approach it this way because this is who I am. It takes a lot out of me to yell and scream, like a lot. It drains me, and you have to at times.
I thought one thing Dano told me, and I thought it was just so interesting. So Dano, obviously, he said that he loved the coaches that were as excited about the good things you do as the bad things you do.
Yes.
And so like that was kind of when he told me that it was mid-season, I was like, you know what? I'm the most hyped coach. I'm always like yelling and screaming. So I was like, you know what? I'm only gonna yell and scream for the good stuff. Bad stuff, I'm gonna come and talk to you quiet. But I thought like that was so interesting to hear.
Yeah, like when you see a good cut, when you make a good cut and you hear about it, it's like, wow. I mean, obviously, probably matters more when they're developing, right? As a freshman, I know when I screwed up, it's going to be hell for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
But as a senior, you're expected not to do that. But you've earned a lot of the leeway and like some of those opportunities to screw up because you know you have your coach's trust. The anxiety of just relationships between coaches too is like coach and player. Like sometimes it's just never going to work. But when it does, you make beautiful art on the court. I love that.
Yeah, and I think there's also that piece of like the coaching aspect of like when they mess up. How do you approach that person in particular?
Individuals.
Yeah, and in games you don't have as much time to talk them through it. Your staff, when they sit down, has to talk them through it. And I'm not a big like rub it in your face person. Like if I take you out and I'm just slap you high five and I don't say anything, it's because unless you're tired, right? It's not like, well, you just did this, and this, and that's like, no, I'm not. You should know why you're
What does
coming
that
out.
do?
Yeah. So if we've done our job in practice, you should.
Yes.
But I think I like that. I'm going to use that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like definitely developmental freshman, huge. I mean, building confidence is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure Jewel, when she's feeling that confident level, it's like watching Steph.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's unexplainable, but it's the coolest thing in sports, and someone is on that heater.
Yes.
I mean, Caitlin Clark, it's like she's like
Oh,
tantalizing.
God,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, speaking of, I think we should probably let you get out of here.
Yes.
Get on with it. But I do kind of want to hear what you're thinking about tonight's Final Four
Matchups?
games.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to pick a winner or anything, just your
okay.
general thoughts.
So, I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I just am.
You're preaching
good,
to the choir.
Good. I think they play the way we would like to play. They don't run motion, but the way they share the basketball and having that inside-outside presence is really something I'm looking to do to build at Wake. So I really am excited. I think they can beat LSU. I really do. I went to the open practices yesterday just to watch a little bit. I missed Virginia Tech's, but I'm watching LSU, and I'm like, I think they could do this. It's going to be hard, not going to be easy by any stretch, and obviously Moki's a great coach, so that's going to be a challenge for them. But I kind of want to see, and Coach Green on my staff and I were talking about this, I kind of want to see the Tech South Carolina matchup just to see how Kitley does against Boston. Does her fadeaway work against somebody her size? I would love to see that. But if I had to pick an overall winner, I'm going with Dawn Staley. I'm going with South Carolina. I'm sorry. I just am.
We've had this conversation. We did a whole podcast. We talked for like 30 minutes about why Iowa could win. and every single one of us picked South
So,
Carolina.
and that's fun to talk about too, though, because Iowa can score, and obviously Caitlin Clark can score. I just don't know if they can rebound well enough to stay in the game.
Against them this year and last year, like your margin for error
It's so small.
razor thin, and you're already kind of starting off behind with size. Every team is.
Yes.
So it's you have to have a perfect game, and they have to have below average, and odds are that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like you have to have a below average game.
Well, and you have to have a
Offensive
bench.
rebound.
See, that's where Virginia Tech will not work out because he only plays 6.
Yeah.
So you get in foul trouble, like we talked about, you're in trouble against South Carolina. So I just don't know any of the teams that are as deep as they are. So
Not many. Not many.
I mean, I honestly watched the Maryland game and I thought, okay, Maryland might actually be able to do this, and then they got in foul trouble and it hurt them.
Oh yeah, he's like Brenda. I mean, you buy it up. You sit them for Cheyenne and Diamond for what? Like,
the whole
majority
quarter.
of the second
Yeah,
quarter.
the whole quarter.
You put yourself in a hole, then you have to change your whole game plan to get back and
Yes.
catch up.
And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting.
I mean, I thought some of the fouls were questionable, but I'm always,
Indeed.
I'm always the refs are bad guy. I mean, That's me.
The refs are always out to get you.
So I will say this though, a lot of times I think that in the moment and I go back and watch and I'm like, dang, they were right.
I know. I feel real bad.
Yeah, and then I feel
said.
bad yelling at them, right? But then when you're right, you're like, I was right, you know? So there's that piece of it. But, you know, I mean, they're trying their best. It's funny, we had dinner last night and with my staff, and there's a group of officials sitting next to us. And I'm like, I'm going to buy them drinks just because you never know.
You never know.
So I bought them their first round drinks hoping that it helps us down the road.
Oh, there you go. There you go. We'll keep track of that.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So Dano actually saw this. I want to talk to you about a little bit about off-court stuff. How good are you at golf?
I love golf.
Okay.
I took lessons for years.
Okay.
'Cause
So, have you been able to play?
No.
Okay.
Because ever since I got the job, I played the KL.
Okay.
I actually have a lunch here at noon with them, but I played in the KL outing, and that was it. I haven't played since. And so I'm supposed to join a club,
Okay.
Old Town, hopefully, fingers crossed. If I do, you guys, if you are golfers, you're going to have to come play.
I'm there for a good time, not a
Yeah.
That's
hard
okay.
time. Yeah.
I'm not serious. I just enjoy it. So in COVID, obviously, that was one of the things you could do was go play. So I got my first round in the 70s ever. I've never,
Really?
but it only happened one time.
Where'd you play in DC?
Oh God, I never played in DC. It was
Okay.
always like in Maryland.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm from. So
Yeah.
I usually went out to like the Urbana area and played that way. But I haven't. So my game, I have no idea what my game's like right now, honestly. But I love it. It gets my mind off basketball, and it's a great way to socialize. It's a great way to like recruit in a way with like parents that play golf and stuff like that. So.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of deals happen out on the golf course, as they say. So.
Oh no.
Yeah, we'll have to have you guys in.
Yeah, I get invited back to golf because I'm a good hang, not because I bring the best clubs or the best game. You know what I mean? It's about being a great hang, and you can go far in that.
I need some new clubs. I've had my same clubs for like 9-10 years. So
Yeah, it's
it's
be
time.
on
It's
get
time.
some Wake
Are you a
Forest.
golfer? I assume you are.
I played a little. So when I was younger, I was pretty good.
Were you?
That's
Oh, so I
pretty
can
good.
learn from you.
No,
Great.
I completely left golf behind because
Okay.
I didn't have money.
Okay.
And-
Well,
and
there's
to
that
play
piece. There's
in
that
college,
piece.
like once I got to like high school, and then I had to drive myself and pay for myself.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is a little bit less fun to have because I used to play PGA courses and then I was playing city courses.
Yeah.
So we get a
it's
little
not.
less
It's
fun.
not as fun. I agree.
But I like being out there and hanging out.
Sure.
Mentioning the recruiting
We'll
aspect.
get you out there.
Well, we need to take the clip of you saying we need new clubs, and we're going to tweet it at Wake Forest golf team,
Sure.
men's and women's golf. I want the custom bag and everything.
Yes.
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 I love this little logo.
Yes. You like this? All right. We'll have to get you guys some
Right.
gear.
Oh, yeah. We will come down to Winston-Salem. I'm sure of it. We've already been playing a few
Where are you
trips.
guys? Where are you? Are you out of DC or?
So I'm in DC. He's in New York.
Hey, where?
New York.
Okay. Oh,
From
so
Texas
far.
originally, but
Oh, no kidding.
yeah.
Okay.
My wife's family was actually from just north of Winston-Salem.
No
so I'm
kidding.
there all the time.
Okay, so let me know when you're coming down.
We just couldn't come in basketball season because
I understand. I understand.
it's going to be an off-season trip. And then
Okay.
we'll come down, we'll golf.
Yeah.
You'll see how bad We are, and then you'll feel great about yourself.
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's been a year. I don't know.
We will come, hang out,
Yeah.
and then
I
and
would
have a
love
good
that.
time. We're a good hang, I think.
I would love that. And my staff plays. Nikki plays.
Okay.
Emily plays. I think Millette might even play.
Oh, really?
So yeah, we'll get you out there.
Millette used to coach at William & Mary, which is that's where I went to law school and I
Okay,
great
nice.
affinity. So
That's awesome. That's a good school. Really smart.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Yes.
on with us. Had a blast.
Yes. So did I. Thank you for the interview. This is awesome.
oh my
Or the
god,
podcast.
this is amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this program
Yes.
goes. And
Thanks.
I believe in it, not just because I know you and I know the staff, but like I believe in it because you guys are building it the right way and you have the right players around.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.